Hey everybody, it's Keri again, one of the library lunch ladies. I am here today and I'm going to give you 3 unique recipes that will help you use up some of that leftover Easter ham. Now, due to the quarantine, we were not able to get together with our extended family, so I had this huge ham and now I have all this leftover ham. So what am I going to do with it? You have your traditional things that you can do with it. Ham and split pea soup. You can do ham and scalloped potatoes, ham salad. But I'm going to do 2 soups and a pasta for you. And they're all quick and easy. The first soup that I'm going to do is actually a ham bone soup. So don't throw out that ham bone. I think a lot of people do that. I never throw out my ham bone. I've made some really great soups with it. I've done a lentil and ham soup, and I've also done more of a ham and kale soup with beans, so like a ham and bean soup. But today we're going to do a different kind of ham bone soup. This one's going to have ham and beans. We're going to use cannellini beans, and then cabbage. And I'm subbing Brussels sprouts for cabbage because I happen to have Brussels sprouts on hand and I didn't have cabbage. So that's what we're going to do for our first leftover ham recipe. The second one is going to be a ham and asparagus creamy pasta. It takes 30 minutes to do. It's going to be a delicious and easy dinner. And then finally, we're going to do a ham and corn chowder that goes in the crock pot for like 8 to 10 hours. So it's a super slow cooker, but it's a dump and let it be. So all of these are really quick and easy recipes. You can sub different things if you don't have them, since we are in quarantine. And I hope you enjoy them, and I hope it's helpful for you. So I'm going to get started with my ham bone soup. So the first thing that I did was I started 3 slices of thick cut bacon in my Dutch oven. And I'm waiting for them to get warm. So once they get warm and crispy, we'll get back. Okay, as you can see, 2 of my pieces of bacon are done, and we are waiting on the 3rd. So I think I'm going to take that out. It's nice and crispy looking. It's spitting. Now that we have our bacon out, we are going to put in our onions, celery, and shallots, although I am not using a shallot because I didn't have any. I'm using garlic instead. So I did 2 cloves of garlic, diced, finely diced, half of a yellow onion, also diced, and then 2 stalks of celery, diced. And we're going to put that into our yummy, yummy bacon grease. Okay, and we're going to cook until soft, about 6 minutes. Our vegetables are looking beautiful. So that's the celery, onions, and I'm using garlic, but you could use shallots. And it is ready for the spice mixture. So we are going to put in a teaspoon of cumin and a half a teaspoon of chili powder. Now, I'm also omitting the red pepper flakes, but you could put 1/4 of a teaspoon of those in as well if you choose. We're also going to season with salt and pepper. Let that cook in there until fragrant. So about a minute. Kind of coat your vegetables in the spices. Smells delicious. Okay, it's smelling really good in here now. So we're going to add our ham bone. Mine still has quite a bit of meat on it, so hopefully that meat will fall off in the soup and it'll be even tastier. So we're going to stick that in. We're going to add 8 cups of cold water. We're going to add 2 cans of beans. Now, the recipe says pinto and cannellini, blah, 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 blah. But I'm using 2 cannellinis because that's what I had. So both of these guys are going to go in. goodness, this broth looks amazing already. So now that we have our water, our ham bone, and our beans in, we're going to take a bay leaf. Good old bay leaf. Gotta use them when you can, especially when you have a big bag. Put in a bay leaf and 3 sprigs of thyme. So, I got these puppies out of my garden already. Yes. So 3 sprigs of thyme. Boop, 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 boop. Whole. And then we are going to bring it to a simmer. And once it does come up to a simmer, we're going to simmer it for 30 minutes. So I'll see you in a little while. So I had my burner on medium from before, and I didn't realize it, but I had to turn it on to high in order to get it to simmer. So now it's finally simmering. So I'm going to take my cover to my pot and put it on and let it simmer for 30 minutes, and then we'll check and see how things are doing. All right, so let's get our cover on. Okay, so it has been simmering for about half an hour, maybe a smidge more. And I just kind of want to show you how the meat is just falling off the bone. The meat that's left on there. Let's see if I can get some. Well, that one's not, but it was. Okay, I'm going to toss in my Brussels sprouts. So, again, the recipe calls for half of a small cabbage. So, I'm going to eyeball it here because it's Brussels sprouts. So, so I'm going to get that ham off the bone, take the bone out, let this cabbage simmer in here for another 10 minutes. Sorry, Brussels sprouts. Cabbage family, right? Let this simmer in here for another 10 minutes, and then we're going to have some soup. All right, hopefully you guys can see the beautiful color that the Brussels sprouts gave to the soup. It looks wonderful and smells wonderful too. I took that ham bone out, cleaned it off pretty well, got most of the ham in my soup. And now I just need to try it. Hey there guys, I'm back with our second quarantine quick meal, leftover ham. And that is going to be our ham and asparagus pasta. So I'm going to post the recipe that was my inspiration for this, but I did adapt it. I'm going to use asparagus, and the original recipe said to use frozen peas. You could use frozen green beans. You could basically use whatever you have on hand. So we're going to cook it a little bit different than the recipe says too, because I have fresh asparagus. It's not frozen. And so I want that to get more tender than the frozen peas would. So I will post my version of the recipe and the original recipe. The other thing that I'm doing that I subbed, they use leeks. I decided to use spring onions because they were cheaper, and like many of you, I have found myself in a position where I'm on a tighter budget. So I chose the cheaper alternative. Leeks have a different flavor than spring onions and a different flavor than regular onions, but they're all in the same family. So if you want to use leeks, please do. The recipe calls for 2 leeks. I used 3 spring onions, but they were huge. They were like that big. And a lot of times you think of spring onions and they're like that big. So they were really big spring onions. If they're small, I would probably use like 6. So we're going to get started by boiling our water for our pasta. And when you boil water for pasta, you should know you should always salt your water. I'm going to put some salt in my water. So we're going to bring that to a boil and get our pasta in there. So while that's coming up to a boil, we're going to start with our asparagus and our sauce. So we're going to put some oil in a frying pan, and we're going to toss our 1 yellow onion that we chopped up, along with our green onion or our leeks, and some salt and pepper into the pot, and we're going to cover it and keep stirring it for about 6 to 8 minutes while the vegetables soften it. So that's what we're going to work on right now. I'd say tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of oil. I just kind of drizzled in there. Got my onion. And I've got my spring onion, green onion, scallions, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. salt and pepper. And that's pretty much to taste. I'm going to put in my pepper. Okay, and we will move it around here. Okay, so we have our onion, our spring onion, and our salt and pepper in the pan with our oil, and we're gonna saute it right now for about 6 to 8 minutes, covered. So we're gonna check on it every little bit to make sure that our onions are softening. So let's put our cover on, and I'll be back. Okay, my onions are looking great. They're getting nice and soft. And so now, because I'm using the fresh asparagus, I've cut it up and I'm going to add it to the saute pan and let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes covered so that it gets soft. So, you know, I got like a whole bunch of asparagus, so that's what I'm tossing in there. Okay. In, let it soften up a bit, and then we'll come back and finish up our sauce. It's that simple. Okay, so my asparagus is looking great. So I'm going to take the cover off. I'm going to show you. It's looking good. And the next thing we're going to do, is put in 3/4 cup of whole milk. We're going to whisk it in. Got my milk. Pour it in, and we're going to whisk that in. So now we have to wait until our milk comes to a simmer. And then we're going to whisk in 4 ounces of cream cheese and 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to do a little waiting here and let the milk simmer. Okay, so I realized I left out an important ingredient. I forgot to put in my clove of garlic. So I'm gonna put that in right now. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And my milk is definitely simmering here, so I'm gonna add my cream cheese. Okay, so 4 ounces, so half a package of cream cheese goes in to our sauce, saucy sauce. And 1/4 cup of Parmesan. There we go. And then we're going to grate a little fresh nutmeg and make it fancy. Otherwise, you can just use your like ground nutmeg already. But you know, I also have a lot of nutmeg that I don't use very often. So when I get the chance to be fancy and use my microplane, so not too much, just a bit, just a pinch. So pretty. Look at that. Okay, perfect. So we gotta get that cream cheese mixed in here. We gotta whisk it, kind of break it up into smaller pieces so that it's easier to whisk. This is gonna be awesome. I'm super excited. And I think I've had my burner on medium the whole time. I think I'm gonna turn it down to about medium low. So the cream cheese has all melted. I'm gonna give you a shot of how that looks. Let me bring it down here a little bit. There you go. Cream cheese is all melted. I can smell it. Cheese is all melted. So finally, the last thing we're gonna do is add our ham. Now, the recipe called for 3/4 cup, but I saw it and I didn't think it was enough. So I probably put in like 1 1/4, 1 1/4 cup, however you want to say it. I put in more. So if you have a lot of ham left over, put in how much you want. Use it up. So then we're going to mix that in as well. And you know what? I think I'm not going to use my whisk for that anymore because it makes no sense. Makes more sense to use a spatula thing. So we're gonna mix. And there we go. we've got our sauce. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. I can't wait to eat it. So now that our sauce is done, we just have to wait for our noodles, and I'll throw it all together and you guys can see how it looks. All right, our noodles are done. I happen to use fettuccine, but you could totally use linguine, spaghetti. The sauce would work for any of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my pot. And I saved a little bit of the pasta water for reserve in case the noodles get too dry. So now I'm going to mix in my sauce. Okay, so I'm mixing my sauce together with my noodles, just mixing it up. And if it seems like I need a little more liquid, I'm going to add some of that reserved pasta liquid. Just a tinge. So it's all mixed in. Let's dish it up. Oh my goodness. I really can't wait to eat this. It's gonna be delicious. And there's the finished product. And I put a little shaved Parmesan on top. It's beautiful. The green and the pink from the ham. It's very springy and delicious. So thank you guys for joining me. Up next will be the slow cooker ham and corn chowder. So keep on watching. Hey there guys, I'm back. This is our third of our quarantine quick meals with the leftover ham that I had personally from Easter, because I had to buy a giant ham and I didn't have that many people to feed because quarantine. So I am making a cheesy ham chowder today in the crock pot. So super easy. The one thing though is I had to get up really early because it takes 8 to 10 hours to cook. So it's like 8 o'clock in the morning and I have all my stuff prepped. So I was up pretty early getting ready for this. So you could prep it the night before, except maybe don't peel the potatoes, but that didn't take that long. But you could cut up everything else and put it in the fridge and then toss it all in the morning. So here's what we're tossing in. I have about 3 medium potatoes, so 1.5 pounds of potatoes cubed. We're gonna toss those in. There we go. And we're going to add to that, I didn't have enough room, so I had to put some on top. We're going to add to that 4 cups of ham, again, diced or cubed. I like mine a little chunky, so I have mine cubed. 4 stalks of celery, chopped. So I did not have 4 stalks of celery. I didn't realize that this recipe called for 4. I only had 2. So what I did was I subbed some carrots because I like carrots and I think they'll go well in a chowder. So I kind of eyeballed how many carrots I thought I would need. So I've got my carrots and celery. All right, and here on my cutting board, I've got 4 cloves of garlic, finely diced, chopped, and then I've got 1 large onion. Put that in as well. I hope this all fits. I still have to put the corn in, and it's getting really full. Okay, whew. This is gonna be tight. So 20 ounces of corn. You could use canned corn. I used frozen corn and I thawed it. Oh man, this is scary. I don't know if I've ever had a crock pot so full. 4 cups of chicken stock. All right, so hopefully this will just go around all the edges in here. It's very full. As you can see, the corn is mounded up. This is the only crock pot I got, so it better work. So we're gonna pour the 4 cups of chicken stock in. Look at that. It's all good. We're all good. Don't know how I'm gonna stir it. So half a teaspoon of pepper. I like to use fresh ground pepper, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. That's probably good. And a little bit of salt. So let's put in this little bit of salt. And I'm gonna make an attempt to stir it. Well, that's not too bad. Not too bad. Kind of gently moving things around. So I had originally bought like a 7-pound ham because that was the smallest I could find. And we're just a family of 4 and one of my daughters does not eat meat. So I had a lot of ham left over. But with the soup, the ham bone soup and the pasta and this, it's all gone. Now we have eaten it a number of days as leftovers for sandwiches and in Cobb salads. We were really excited we could eat Cobb salads because it's one of my favorites and my husband's too. So we did eat some leftovers before I made all these, but I was pretty excited to use all of it up, and now it's not in my refrigerator. And now I have 3 different meals, and the soups I plan on freezing as well. So whenever I make a big batch of soup, I always freeze it, because then I have a quick and easy lunch that I can take to work, thaws out while I'm working, and then I stick it in the microwave, and it's like perfect. All right, so I think I've got it pretty mixed here. Got it plugged in. I'm going to turn it on low. Put the cover on. And I'll see you back here in about 9 hours or so. We'll see, 9, 10. And we'll see you back here and finish it up. Okay, so it has been 10 hours. It smells delicious. It hasn't really reduced much. I am not quite sure I'm going to fit all this in here, but we're going to whisk 2 cups of whole milk and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch together and add it to the crock pot. And then we're going to cook it on high for 20 to 25 minutes while it thickens, and then we'll be ready to serve. So now we're going to add 2 cups of whole milk to a bowl and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And we're going to whisk them together, and this is going to be our thickening agent. And now we whisk. Whisk. So you want all the cornstarch to dissolve, obviously. And you don't want any clumps. I hate it when cornstarch gets clumpy. Now we're going to stir it into the soup. It's still so full. I can do it. All right, here we go. It's like to the brim here. Ooh. So I have to very carefully stir it so that it does not overflow. All right, so like I said, we're going to turn it on high for 20 to 25 minutes so it thickens up. So we'll come back. So it was supposed to be 25 minutes that it was on high, but it wasn't bubbling, it wasn't getting thicker. So it's been about an hour and a half that I've left it on high. That could be because my crock pot is smaller. It's only a 6 quart. If you do it in a larger crock pot, it may bring it up to bubbling quicker. So I'm going to add in my sour cream. I'm going to add in my cheese, and we're going to hope that it thickens up. And if it doesn't, it's still going to be delicious. So I'm going to take off my top here, and still I'm not sure how everything's going to fit in here. So I've got my cup of sour cream. I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to add in the sour cream. Very, very carefully. We're going to let that melt in and thicken. So it's 2 cups of shredded cheese. I didn't have enough shredded cheese, so I had to use some cheese slices that I cut up. But I'm pretty sure I got 2 cups here. We're gonna let that melt. Stir that in, melt. The crock pots can't handle too much more. It's thickened up quite a bit with the sour cream and the cheese. It's yummy. The corn, the ham, it's really good. Good thickness. Not too creamy, but creamy enough. Fantastic. Easy peasy. I just would say that if you have a small crock pot, it needs to be on high for a lot longer than the 20 to 25 minutes that the recipe said. I had it on over an hour, and that worked. This was perfect. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Quarantine Quick Meals with our leftover ham edition. I hope you make some of the recipes and give them to your family to enjoy. Have a good and safe